At 2 a.m., a young man was admitted to a hospital following a severe psychological crisis. The catalyst was not a physical trauma, but 72 hours of silence from his closest friend. 3 days of unanswered communication were enough to dismantle his mental stability. In this context, ignoring someone is not a passive lapse. It is a choice to withhold acknowledgement, functioning as a psychological pressure point intended to create a vacuum in the target's reality. Our brains evolved in environments where social exclusion was a death sentence. Consequently, the human nervous system is calibrated to seek constant acknowledgement, to verify our safety and social standing. When you are left on a read receipt or ghosted, the brain encounters a data void. It triggers a state of cognitive dissonance, struggling to process a relationship that has suddenly ceased all output. This creates a specific internal sensation, the feeling of becoming invisible. When others refuse to look at you, the brain begins to question the objective value of your presence. In the absence of an explanation, the mind catastrophizes the silence. It interprets a lack of contact as evidence that you have been weighed and found to be without merit. This resulting state of high alert panic is the intended outcome for anyone seeking to exert influence through isolation. They rely on your need to fix the silence. The silent treatment is an attempt to disrupt your internal sense of control, making your emotional state dependent on their willingness to respond. Physical or verbal conflict, while destructive, provides an endpoint. An argument offers data that the brain can use to categorize the event and eventually move past it. Silence offers no such finality. It forces the mind into a loop of obsessive questioning, searching for a mistake that might not even exist, which prevents the psychological process of moving on.
For men living independently, this tactic is particularly effective. Without a wide network of daily interactions to provide alternative feedback, a single source of silence carries disproportionate weight. Protecting yourself against this dynamic requires more than a clever reply. It requires a structural shift in how you maintain your personal stability. This diagram represents a neural loop dependent on outside input. When that central validation node disappears, the entire internal circuit breaks. The only way to prevent this is to replace external dependencies with self-contained routines. The vulnerability exposed by ostracism is internal. It reveals that the foundation of your self-worth was built on the shaky ground of other people's attention. In any social interaction, the person with the least emotional investment holds the most influence over the direction of the relationship. By deploying silence, an individual attempts to force you into a state of emotional scarcity, hoping the resulting anxiety will drive you to seek their approval at any cost. A common reaction is to mirror this behavior. You stop responding, you wait the same amount of time to text back, and you attempt to project an image of being unbothered. The flaw in this approach is that it is still a performance. If you are constantly checking your phone to see if they've noticed your absence, you are still reacting to their lead. An observant person recognizes this imitation of indifference. Knowing that your actions are still a response to their silence actually confirms their influence over you. Mirroring is only a viable first step if it eventually transitions into an actual lack of concern for the outcome. When superficial mirroring fails to break the cycle, the next logical step is to step away from the interaction entirely. Partial detachment is ineffective because it signals that you are still monitoring the situation. It suggests you are still waiting for the rules to change. A full withdrawal involves removing yourself from all digital and social channels shared with that person. It means ceasing all updates and restricting access through mutual contacts. When your attention is withdrawn, the other party experiences a sudden disruption. The method they were using to influence your mood suddenly has no target to hit. This isn't an act of retaliation, it is an act of reclamation. You are taking back the mental energy that was being wasted on a one-sided interaction. Physical and digital distance serves to remove the constant triggers of cognitive dissonance. Without the visual cues of their presence, the brain can stop searching for answers. This period of quiet allows the nervous system to reset its baseline. It breaks the cycle of checking for notifications and provides the space needed to detox from the need for external approval. Disappearing is a tactical move to stop the bleed. It allows you to recover the mental bandwidth that was being drained by the expectation of a response. Once that bandwidth is recovered, it must be redirected into a self-sustaining structure that makes you immune to future attempts at isolation. This involves focusing all energy on solitary, objective goals. You commit to rigorous physical training, the acquisition of new skills, and the management of personal finances. This shift moves the focus from external validation nodes to a single internal loop. By prioritizing personal benchmarks, you create a system where your sense of progress is generated by your own actions, not by others' reactions. Living this way reveals the specific advantages of independence. You gain the ability to direct your time and ambition without needing to account for the moods or manipulation of others. Real-world wins, like increasing a lift in the gym or hitting a professional milestone, provide the dopamine that was previously sourced from social feedback. These wins are objective and cannot be taken away by silence. A disciplined routine changes the context of being alone. It stops being a state of exclusion and becomes a state of focused productivity. Reaching this point requires you to stop trying to elicit a reaction from others. Your goal is to become so involved in your own trajectory that their opinion becomes irrelevant. Eventually, you reach a threshold where your internal momentum is too great to be disrupted. External attempts to ignore you simply bounce off your perimeter without slowing you down. Petty gestures of ignoring them back are unnecessary once you have moved on. True power is found in the fact that you are no longer paying attention to the game at all. A psychological tactic is rendered useless when it no longer produces a detectable emotional response in the target. Real autonomy is achieved when you no longer notice whether someone is responding to you or not, because your day is already full of value.
The effectiveness of social isolation depends entirely on the target's desire for inclusion. If that desire is removed, the tactic fails. You have a choice between two lifestyles, one where your peace is managed by the whims of others, or one where you are the sole architect of your internal state. The most effective response is not a counterattack, but a clean removal. You simply stop allowing that person to occupy a space in your life where their silence can reach you. For an independent man, a successful life is characterized by uninterrupted focus and measurable growth, free from unnecessary social friction. When you pair personal discipline with a high sense of self-value, the attempts of others to influence your mood through silence become ineffective. The moment you realize your progress is not dependent on anyone else's approval is the moment you render external validation unnecessary. By focusing on self-sufficiency and building a life of purpose, you develop a psychological resilience that cannot be broken by social exclusion. If you are currently building a life based on your own internal standards, go to the comments and write, "I am unbreakable."